Hola, muy buenos días a ustedes también, por supuesto. Para los que no me conocen, mi nombre es Nelson Class, soy el líder del grupo de ventas aquí en Glen International para energías renovables. La verdad es que me estoy tomando un segundo aquí para disfrutar del hecho de que este salón está lleno, después de todo lo que hemos estado pasando por los últimos años como país, como compañía, cada uno en su parte individual también. Finalmente yo creo que estamos como que al otro lado, ¿verdad? Subimos la montaña, ya llegamos, estamos bajando un poquito. Así que con eso de preámbulo, ¿verdad? Les digo muchas gracias por estar aquí. Estamos muy entusiasmados de que estén con nosotros. Para los que están online, en YouTube y en Facebook Live, por favor, los exhortamos a que hagan sus preguntas, no se limiten, no se cohíban. Como siempre digo, la peor pregunta es la que no se hace, y más con un producto básicamente nuevo en el mercado. Así que, por favor, lo hacen, nosotros vamos a estar monitoreándolo. Y en un momento dado vamos a interrumpir a la persona que está hablando, a Jonas Ball, que luego lo presento, y nada, atendemos su pregunta, ¿ok? Varios temas para el público que está aquí, varios temitas así como decimos, de housekeeping para todos los caballeros. El baño está en la parte de atrás. Para las damas, al cruzar la cocina, a mano derecha, la primera puerta. Los celulares, quisiera que por favor los pongan todos en silent, y son tan amables. Si alguien llega tarde y se sienta a su lado, por favor, asegúrense de que esa persona también lo ponga en silent, porque eso pasa mucho. Si tienen que atender una llamada, entendemos perfectamente. Por favor, les pedimos que salgan del salón. Al cruzar la cocina, hay una parte al aire libre, y allí pueden atender su llamada sin ningún tipo de problema y con mucha privacidad. Pueden tomarse su tiempo allí, ¿ok? También me tomo la oportunidad, ¿verdad?, para este momento para presentar varios miembros del equipo, que no soy yo nada más. Nueva en el equipo, ahí en la esquinita de la camisa roja está Natalia Candelaria, que se unió al equipo. Acaba de entrar al lado del café, está Patricia Pared. Ella es nuestra persona que está haciendo un excelente trabajo, coordinando las entregas, coordinando los pickups y básicamente apoyándonos por toda la parte de servicio al cliente. Ahora somos 5 personas, así que entiendo yo que las llamadas y todas sus inquietudes las podemos atender mucho más rápido. Esa siempre ha sido nuestro deseo, atenderlos más rápido, ¿verdad? Para que ustedes puedan seguir haciendo sus instalaciones y sus negocios. Yo creo que eso sería todo así en términos de housekeeping, como decimos. Así que procedo a presentar a Jonah. Él va a hablar en inglés. Eso no, por favor, no se cohiban tampoco. Los que no se atreven a hacer las preguntas en inglés pueden acercarse a nosotros o hacerla en español, y algunos de nosotros, créanme, que la podemos traducir felizmente. ¿Estamos? So, like I said, I'm going to switch to English. Today, we're very excited because we have Jonah Small from HOMEGRID. He's the sales manager for the continental U.S. and Puerto Rico, right, and the Caribbean. We started talking to HOMEGRID last year, and we got pretty excited because we think it's a very good solution for you, because we always think about our customer first. You're going to see how quickly the installation is, how quickly the commissioning is going to be, and how safe the chemistry within the battery is as well. So without further ado, we leave you with Jonah.
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks, Nelson. So thanks for having me here today. Appreciate Ignacio, Nelson, everybody else at Glen International for having me here. It's a great opportunity for us to come down to Puerto Rico. We've loved working with Glen International so far. So my name is, once again, Jonah with HOMEGRID Energy, and we manufacture batteries. Okay, so our company is based out of Henderson, Nevada. It's right outside of Vegas. And the brand itself has been around for about 1.5 years. Okay, but a lot of the engineers behind us have been in lithium iron phosphate and battery technology for the last 15 to 20 years. So what they did is, this was kind of their brainchild. Some of the engineers at Valence who helped pioneer lithium iron phosphate as a battery chemistry. And as prices on lithium iron phosphate came down and it became applicable to the market, that's where they stepped in and came out with this line. So even though it's a newer brand, this is a tested technology, invented by people who have been in this industry for a while. So Quick rundown on what our chemistry is. So I know some people are probably familiar with different chemistries, but we only use lithium iron phosphate. So it's a little bit different than some of the other formulas out there. If you guys are familiar with Fortress uses this. And really, for residential and commercial storage, lithium iron phosphate is where everything's going to transition to. So it's safer, it lasts longer, it has better performance, and the only downside is that it's a little bit heavier. So for homes and businesses, it's a perfect application. But this is something where it's not going to catch a house on fire, it's not going to overheat, anything like that, but that's because it's lithium iron phosphate. And with our batteries, we only use tier 1 prismatic automotive grade cells. So we are using the best options that are out there for the prismatic cells that we put in these batteries. So that's kind of a quick background on our company. Just as a brief overview, we also were acquired last year by a company called Lithion with investments from some larger partners as well. And that money has allowed us to maintain inventory. It's allowed us to update these batteries. So one of the biggest reasons that we've been able to push so quickly into this market is because we get feedback from you guys. So if you're installing this battery and you notice ways that we can improve it, we don't want to stop here. We already know we have the best battery in the world right now. But if you guys see improvements, ways that we can make it better, make it faster to install, that's something that we can do and modify very quickly. So let's kind of get into some of the different products that we have. Show you the screen here.
Jonah, will you be actually at the end also explaining a little bit about lithium and all the solutions we have with lithium to the capacity we can actually reach that?
Yeah. So we manufacture solutions, everything from 5 kilowatt hours, like little wall-mounted batteries, all the way up to grid box solutions and 40-foot shipping containers. So everything from 5 kilowatt hours up to 2.7 megawatt hours in a single solution, and everything along the way. So depending on your needs, that's where it's nice that you can have one person, one company that you're working with provide solutions on every level. And right now, there's not anybody else that's doing that. But we'll run through. We'll start at the smallest product and kind of work our way up through the line. So the compact series is our smallest battery. We'll pull up the data sheet here. So this guy's a little wall-mounted solution. This is more comparable to other things that are on the market, but we do have a higher output. So we're still using our good lithium iron phosphate cells, but it's a wall-mounted solution that's 5 kilowatt hours, and we can output 5 kilowatts continuous from this battery. So we can do up to 15 of these in parallel. This is kind of what they look like here. And these batteries actually ship with the cables for the battery, the communication cable. We have communications with a lot of different inverters out there. So I'm sure a lot of you are installing with Solarc, maybe the Schneider XW Pro. We also have comms with Victron and SMA. So that's one of our big things too, is that we are compatible with a lot of different inverters. Solarc is definitely one of our preferred partners just because their capability can match the capability of our batteries. So we've liked working with them a lot. So this guy is pretty simple. The next product is by far our most popular product, and it's what you see in front of you here. It's our Stack Series battery. So I'll show you a quick video of how this goes together. I'm sure some of you have seen it. Like Legos. So that was a quick little video demo of the Stack Series battery, and then we'll run through it really quickly. So it goes together just like Legos, like you saw in the video. Everything stacks together. So each of these white modules, like the white Legos, are 4.8 kilowatt hours. And we can do anywhere from 2 to 8 in a single stack. So it gives us a capacity range, I'll show you right here, it gives us a capacity range of 9.6 to 38.4 kilowatt hours in a single battery.
Single battery, how many batteries?
So we can do 2 to 8. So 9.6 kilowatt hours all the way up to 38.4 kilowatt hours in a single battery. And we can do up to 15 stacks in parallel if we want to. So we can reach over 500 kilowatt hours with the stack series. Okay? The nice thing is that our main goal with this product was to provide full home backup, true full home backup. A lot of batteries on the market right now tell you you can back up air conditioning, water pumps, we can handle the whole home, and they can't. So with this product, I'll show you the spec sheet. We can do up to 15 kilowatts continuous from a single battery. Okay, so I'll pull up the specs right here. So you can see with the capacity, you have a number of modules here, so 2 to 8 modules. At 3 modules, we can do 14.4 kilowatts continuous, and we can handle a 24 kilowatt surge for 10 seconds. I mean, that's like 2 to 3 times what other batteries are on the market right now. So we came into this, we wanted to back up the full home and handle everything. The last thing we want is the battery to be the bottleneck in these systems, okay?
Hey, Jonathan, one question. You mentioned a single battery or a single stack, you can get 15 kilowatt continuous. But then I heard you need 3 modules to get 14.8.
Yeah, so at 2 modules, you can kind of see on the spec sheet here, at 2 modules, the continuous is 9.6 because it's only 9.6 kilowatt hours. It's a small battery at that point. So as soon as you step up to 14.4, so 3 modules, it goes up to 14.4. And then if you do 4 modules, we can do 15.
Gotcha.
So
it's confusing the surge and the capacity.
Sorry, yeah. So the surge is even higher. So if you have 3 modules in a stack, the surge is 16.8. And if you go to 4 modules, that's where we have a 24 kilowatt surge. So on our 19.2 kilowatt hour battery, which is 4 of the white Legos, we can do 15 kilowatts continuous and a 24 kilowatt surge, which is fantastic performance. Within that, we wanted to have the capacity. So like I mentioned, we have a massive capacity range for people to do full home backup for the capacity as well. So within that, we wanted to make this system really modular and really easy to install. So there's kind of 3 main benefits to this. One is that this battery is very easy to install. So we just had an installer 2 weeks ago who's done this system a couple times and he knows how to install it. And he installed just the battery in 20 minutes, okay? So that's including the 4-aught cable, the comms to the Solar, which we ship it pre-configured, the comm cable to Solar. It took 20 minutes to do the battery install.
With a solar inverter.
So not including the inverter
No,
install.
but with a solar inverter.
Yes, yeah. So it would take maybe 2 to 3 minutes longer if you were using another inverter, just because you'd have to make the communication cable. But the battery itself takes anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes for a typical installation.
If you install 2 or 3 modules initially, you can add later, right?
Yeah. So that's one of the benefits.
What about the degradation of the current modules versus the new ones? How will they work, or how long can I wait to, okay, I cannot add modules from this year?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So that's one of the benefits to upgrading this or having it be modular like Legos, is that you can upgrade this system later. If everyone couldn't hear the question, he's asking if somebody adds a module years down the road, are we going to run into problems with the existing battery and the new module? And the answer is no. So the way that we have the safety protocols in this battery is we actually have a main BMS, so a main controller here, but in each of the things on the cellular level. So for upgrading the capacity later, there's no safety concern.
You don't have to
Like other brands that they have only, you have only 1 year to put.
The older model.
So
yeah,
the
yeah,
only
like for example, in the general, if you're going to install new modules, you need to lower the existing modules to the voltage of the new one, so they can match. So here you can have a depleted module and install a new one, and they will work separately.
So when you actually install the new module, the capacities need to be about the same. So if as an example, like if this battery was completely empty and you had a new module that was completely full, you want to charge this battery up before you put it on there.
Okay.
But in terms of, changing things around, there's no need to do that. You can add it at any point. Yes, sir.
Do each module keep track of their cycles?
Yeah. Yep. So the only problem with adding modules later is that it does not increase the warranty though. So the warranty is from the initial date of install. So it's 10 years, 4,000 cycles on the system. And we're guaranteeing a 60% state of health. So if you wait 9 years and you add a module to it, that new module is only warranted for 1 year. So it's just from the initial install. But in terms of safety or the health of the battery system, you can add the module at any point because these are wired in parallel and we have safety protocols in the BMS to handle differences in voltages.
May I add something? So when we originally looked at this system, what we found, again, originally, to be an advantage is the modularity of it. Exactly what we're discussing right now. Because this right here on the top is the battery management module. So this is a BMS, right? By removing this, each one of these is one module.
Cada uno tiene un BMS independiente que por eso te permite seguir haciendo
Stacking. Hasta 8 con cada uno de los BMS.
Si ninguna batería lo tiene.
Ahora no, hasta ahora no.
Y no me queda aquí.
Sí.
Pero en adición a eso, va a ser stacking. O sea que pueden poner múltiples de ellos pegados. La belleza que tienen ellos ahora mismo con Solar, la belleza que tiene esto ahora con la comunicación con Solar es que para uno hacer el crecimiento al punto que tenían ustedes, simplemente tú apagas el sistema, apagas Solar, como él tiene ese cable de comunicaciones con ese protocolo hablando, tú sacas el BMS. Is this tied or can we lift it right now?
It's on right now. So we need to turn
No,
it off.
if we turn it off, can we?
Ignacio,
Yeah.
can you switch back to English? He's from the US.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah.
So could we possibly turn it off real quick so I can see the simplicity of it all? So,
Here, let me, and then that's gonna come off. Yeah, it pulls up. So now you pull up. It's light.
so
Okay, yeah, good.
So you grab another battery module, you stack 2, 3, and then you bring the BMS again, which is actually lighter than that. So I'm just a whip. Align it, plug it. That communications cable is still there, everything is off. You turn the solar on, turn this on, communicates, auto configures to the size I just said.
That's all.
I mean, amazing. Now, granted, that communication interface, correct me if I'm wrong, is currently only with solar. The other ones can be programmed, but there has to be a little bit of programming, which takes you about 4 or 5 more minutes.
It depends on the system, so it will take a little bit longer, but we do actually have comms with other brands.
Okay.
So we do actually have comms with
SMA,
Schneider,
Schneider.
SMA, Victron. So we have actual communications with their systems.
But I mean, what really attracted us was the modularity
Yeah.
of being able to just, a customer calls you, goes, I want to add more time. Just come with a module, turn everything off, stack, go.
And you need different cables to communicate with the others inverters, or you just only need one?
No, I believe it's the
So-
same communication.
So it depends, so like with the cable that we ship it with,
Yeah, because all
So-
inverters are different, so.
Yeah,
solar is-
so you would, if you're doing a different inverter, so if you're installing with a Solar system, we ship the cable pre-made to Solar. So this one's already pre-wired to Solar. If you're gonna install with Schneider or a different brand, you have to cut it and rewire the tip.
Okay.
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 Yeah.
So it's probably a crossing of the,
Yeah.
of
So
the pair.
with the solar, it's plug and play.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, so Solar, this cable's already pre-made for Solar. You just plug it in.
Okay, so you will have to put some parameters on the solar based on size, PV and that, but
No.
So we have communication with Solar. So when you're installing it with a Solar system, for us, there's just a little switch, and we'll go over that later. There's a little switch that you set the battery to Solar, and on Solar, it's just the BMS protocol 00, and it automatically loads and communicates everything.
To the size of what you have stacked. So that's why if you have already something installed and you're increasing the stack by turning it off, everything, and then stacking, turning it on, auto communicates and then configures the incremental part of the battery you design.
Yeah. So basically, each time, we'll go through it in more in depth when we go through the install process later on. But it's a very simple system. So you guys pick this up really quickly. So with that modularity, because it's like Legos, there's 3 benefits. One is a super fast install, right? We're talking sub 30 minutes for the full battery installation. The second thing is future expandability. If a homeowner right now wants to add batteries to their system, this is expensive. You're having to put in bus bars and extra conduit and wiring, and it's a pain in the butt. With this system, they can start small, and if they want to add capacity to it later, the only thing they need to purchase is one of the white modules. And you can add it, they can add it. It's super easy to do, right? It takes about 20 minutes.
Hey, Jonah, you mentioned quickly about the cycles, 4,000 cycles, I think you mentioned. Is that, and I'm not that familiar with this type of chemistry. 4,000 cycles, does it matter if it's 100 to 0 or a cycle is from 100 to 80 or how to, would you mind expanding?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So our warranty is 10 years or 4,000 cycles, and we warranty a 100% depth of discharge on the batteries. So you can use the full capacity every single cycle, right?
But still, if you just go one cycle to 80% and then charge it, that's one cycle. It doesn't matter if you go to 0 or to, okay.
Yes, but we do warranty using the full capacity of the battery every single time. And so,
That is not the case.
yeah,
That is 80.
Yeah.
Básicamente te dicen que lo bloqueas hasta 20, él te lo va a decir hasta 0.
and so one of the benefits of using lithium iron phosphate as a chemistry in the batteries is that everyone's familiar with your phones, right? They can overheat and their capacity drops off very quickly. With lithium iron phosphate, most of its degradation occurs over a much greater period of time. So typically what we see is about 1.5 to 2 times the life cycle and capacity compared to other chemistries. So there are other batteries on the market that are using lithium iron phosphate. We are using high temperature automotive grade cells to try and push that even further.
What's the?
Jonathan, the fact that the warranty is 10 years doesn't mean that the life expectancy of the battery is 10 years. The life expectancy of the battery is what?
So the life expectancy of the battery at that same level is 20 to 25 years. So this is one of those things where, like, if we thought the battery was only going to last 10 years, we wouldn't do a 10-year warranty on
Do
it.
you have
Like,
to put specific temperature? You have to have the battery in a specific temperature, or because here in Puerto Rico it's a
Very hot.
little bit warm.
yeah, that's a great question.
So that affects.
So I'll show you here. So we do have some temperature cutoffs on the battery. It's not going to affect the warranty, but the BMS will, if it falls outside these ranges, the BMS will keep the battery from charging or discharging to keep it healthy. So, but you can see, I don't think in Puerto Rico you're going to fall outside these temperatures. So for charging, it's 32 to 113 degrees. And for discharging, it's 14 degrees to 140. So I don't think you guys are ever like, yeah.
When do you know when a battery is not good? I mean, is it still working, but let's see, certain percentage is not usable anymore. So regarding your warranty, what is it covered during those 10 years? I mean, after the 10 years, what do we expect from that battery?
So for the warranty, we're saying that you're at least going to have 60% capacity. So we can power that on here. So the battery BMS will read the current capacity, but it will also show you the state of health of the system, which is how much is left. So you'll see it cycle back and forth. Right now, the state of health should be at 100%, right? This is a brand new battery. So 100% state of health, and right now the capacity is at 42% state of charge. So it cycles back and forth. It'll display error codes. And if there is a problem with the battery, it'll also communicate that to the solar inverter and show that there's a problem.
If I have one model of that one, and after 10 years I want to put another one, what happens with the warranty?
So you can add to it, but then the new module would not be warranted anymore. So if you,
After the 10 years.
So if you add a module to, let's say you install this system today and you wait 11 years and then you put modules on, you can do that, but the new modules will not have a warranty.
Is the warranty
full replacement during the 10-year period, or is this a prorated?
So there is the option to prorate it based on the warranty. There is the option to do that. This is kind of a handshake deal. We can prorate it, but right now we fully replace it. So we've had one module failure, and it was sad to say it was an installer's fault when he was installing the module. But we just shipped him a new one, and he shipped the old one back. There's no problems. So that's kind of the second benefit of the system with it being like this. Because these modules are in parallel, if one of them fails or something happens, the rest of the system will continue to work. And if you need to replace a module or replace a component, we can provide that to you. It's something that also takes 20 to 30 minutes to go out and just swap components because it's so easy, right? So
If I understand correctly, the bare minimum is 2 modules.
So the minimum is 2 modules.
That's how it starts, just like that.
Yep. If one of these were to fail, it will continue working with one module, but the output and everything will be greatly decreased. So it will still work. And if you have 6 modules and one fails, then the other 5 will continue to work as well. But the minimum for typical installation is you have to have at least 2 for this.
The lower ground module, is that just a base?
Yes, sir. It's just the base. Just to keep it up off the ground. It's also for aesthetics, makes it look a little nicer.
Does the system tells me which module is bad, or you guys through access monitoring or something? Who tells me 1, 2, 3, 4, the third one is the bad one?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it depends on what the problem is. If the system, like if a module completely fails, it's just going to tell you that there's a missing module there. So that's where we can check each individual one. So right now, we would have you test that. So we have like an online tool that we can train people up on later. Super simple. You can check out the battery. This summer, we're going to have Wi-Fi modules, which, sorry, I'll step off camera really quick. I actually brought a couple of these as like samples to show the team at Glenn International. This summer, we're going to be releasing these, which are integrated into the system so that we can perform software updates over Wi-Fi. We can do problem diagnosis and see the entire system in there. And then later this year, it'll be completely integrated into every single battery. So it's super simple.
But if I'm going to test each module, does it have a board where I can check, or do I have to take it apart and check each one?
So on the side of each of the modules, there's a port that you can plug into.
Oh, okay, so I don't have to dismount or disinstall just to check which one is the wrong?
No, you would just take off the little side caps here,
Okay,
like that, and then there's a plug on the side.
okay.
Jonah, regarding the temperature ranges, we have a question online. They're asking if those temperature ranges are ambient or the equipment itself.
So it's whatever the sensor ends up reading. So if that temperature ends up permeating the battery and the battery is actually becoming those temperatures, that's what it'll cut off at.
So basically it's the equipment then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a sensor inside the system. So if the temperature inside the system becomes that, that's
Okay,
what
thank you.
No, so that's the thing. So
heat sinks.
like I was saying, there's not even heat sinks. So with lithium iron phosphate, this battery chemistry, I would hesitate to say that there's no thermal runaway. Like the batteries do heat up slightly, like maybe a couple degrees with charging and discharging, but there's no fans, there's no cooling system, there's no need for it. This is a system you could shoot it with a gun, you could stab it with a nail. It's not going to explode, it's not going to catch on fire. So there's no temperature buildup with these systems.
So 140 degrees would mean that you have it enclosed to a point that it's not breathing, and that's the only way we're going to get to that operating temperature. There's no way here in Puerto Rico we get maybe to 105.
Yeah. So if somebody were to accidentally install it in the sun, which you're not supposed to do, so we are like IP55 rated. Here in Puerto Rico, with some of your storms and weather that you guys have, we probably wouldn't recommend putting it outside unless it has an enclosure.
No, you did not hear that. We do not install it outside.
Yeah.
Permiso, ¿me puede ayudar? Seguro. So sorry for my English. Tengo una pregunta válida. Aquí en Puerto Rico normalmente hay mucho problema con la cuestión de los BMS. Usualmente cuando se va a comprar una segunda unidad, casi siempre la gran mayoría de los instaladores pues no, vamos a poner, no parejan las baterías, pues no las llevan cargadas al 100%. Al ser esa unidad de múltiples unidades, ese equipo automáticamente, por ejemplo, si yo tengo una batería descargada, vamos a poner que esté por un 50%, y pongo la segunda,
Ajá.
tiene el BMS interno de ella balancea esa batería para no tener una falla prematura en la batería.
Estoy 100% seguro que, 99.9% seguro que sí, pero vamos a preguntar.
¿Tú dices,
Ajá.
¿tú dices módulos o una segunda unidad?
No, que sí.
No, eso fue lo que yo le
sí.
pregunto ahorita.
Sí,
Tiene
sí,
que
exacto.
balancear.
Si sube el stack,
Hay que subirla.
Sí.
Entonces,
Yo se
¿de
lo
qué
pregunto.
manera yo puedo subirla? Tendría que entonces poner el módulo regular, cargarla al 100% y poner el otro módulo. Entonces, en una segunda etapa.
no, él automáticamente dice, pero vamos a preguntarse a Jonas. Jonas, so it's a great question. He's saying that, let's say we're running, everything is at 100%, nobody's using anything, and he buys 1 or 2 more modules. And they come in and maybe they're at 50% or 60% or 70%. And he puts the 2 modules, one might be at 70, the other one might be at 50. What happens then? How does the BMS balance everything and little by little charges everything to 100%?
Yeah, so it does that on the charging cycles. So every time the battery gets charged, it balances out the cells. So if you put them in with a change, it'll probably take 3 to 4 cycles, and it'll balance out. Yeah.
And then it will put everything at 100% fairly balanced. How long would that take, depending perhaps on the
It
discharge
would,
level?
like for cycles, it would probably be the maximum 5 cycles. So it might take a few days.
Okay.
So if you use the battery every day,
So yeah, I was gonna say you mean cycles, but we don't normally use it on a daily basis. So I guess we're gonna have to, in order for that process to work, people are gonna have to cycle the batteries themselves.
yeah, I mean, because
On-site.
that's one of the biggest benefits with using solar and these batteries is that you use a certain percentage every day,
Mhm.
right?
Uh-huh.
Because you don't need to be fully off grid, but at least all the installs that we're doing right now, people are using 50% of the battery every single day to offset their electricity usage in the evenings. So with our battery and solar, that's something you can do. It's not just an emergency generator, right? We want to every single day we want to offset your electricity usage.
Okay.
Yeah, but here with the meter, we wouldn't need that. We don't have time of use or anything
Not
like
yet.
that yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, and so in those
That will
examples,
be on by the end of the year.
So maybe.
Yeah.
No, it will be on because of the electric vehicle charging. That's being discussed right now in Negociado Energía. That because of the EV charging, they have to go to time of use, otherwise the grid won't handle it.
Mhm.
So by the end of the year, we'll be.
Yeah, but what I meant with my comment, I think you're thinking the same thing as I am, is that we don't normally install the batteries for anything regarding the current rate that we're paying. We
Because we don't
normally
have
use it for resiliency. So if we do an installation for resiliency, then in order for that system to work, the installer has to run through all the 3 cycles that you mentioned in
yeah,
order to balance them out
yeah.
and then leave the site.
So he won't do it on his own.
Yeah.
No, it does, but you have to charge it.
Yeah.
You
So,
have to use it so that it can balance that power.
yeah, do the 3 cycles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what I asked before. You have to balance the existing ones to the state of the new ones, because I am sure this is the same thing, but basically all the batteries, because of transportation requirements, they need to come at less than 30% charge.
Yeah.
So it's almost impossible that we get a new battery out of the box over 30% charge.
Yeah, 100%. So like, I'm just saying that to balance it out, all you need to do is charge it. Like if you just run it through a couple cycles, it'll balance everything out. Yes, sir.
Okay.
But since they are in parallel, wouldn't they balance themselves out?
They could, but we do it on the charging cycles to like maintain battery health. So
Okay, 2 questions regarding warranty.
Mhm.
If I put a parallel battery, does that parallel battery, the new one, starts its own warranty cycle?
yes.
It's not attached to the first battery?
So it's each individual stack. Yeah.
Right. And
Basically, each
secondly-
BMS.
Yeah. It's each stack is its own warranty.
Okay, secondly, is the warranty contingent on which inverters we use, or is that?
No, not at all. Yes, sir.
Would you use the same kind of battery for a daily discharge and a floating kind of situation where for like long-term backup there?
Yeah. No, I mean, lithium iron phosphate, the only degradation that we really see is like, it has less to do with the cycle count. like on lithium iron phosphate, has much more to do with just like the general time that it's used. So we have people that are using this for emergency backup for off-grid cabins in the US where they only go out there every once in a while. But we have, honestly, most of our customers are using the battery every single day, right? Because they're in maybe California where they have high time of use rates in the evening.
Connecticut.
Or there's people that they just want to use it every single day just to offset their normal electrical usage. Because they want to see a little bit of a return on investment on it, right? Just use it every single day.
And for the lead acid, you have to get two different kind of batteries for those two applications.
Yeah, so lead acid, I mean, you're limited in so many ways. Like it's certainly a little bit of a price trade-off, right? Lead acid is going to be way cheaper, but you're going to have to replace it after a few years, and you can only use a certain percentage of the capacity. So yeah, you can use this battery every single day. You can use it as a backup generator, you know, like what you guys are mentioning for solar.
One of the things that we've also seen is that also lithium iron phosphate in our temperature works beautifully. I mean, it's interesting because lead acid, you know, the heat is not friendly to the lead acid for whatever reason. Meanwhile, lithium ion and lithium iron phosphate, very extreme cold weather creates havoc. So for the first time, we actually have an advantage of storage that they actually like our temperature. And humidity doesn't really affect it. So for the first time, we actually have a win on storage of energy with our temperature. Sí, perdón.
Una pregunta, normalmente aquí en Puerto Rico, pues, la gran mayoría pues, está lo que viene siendo pues, medición neta. En ese caso, ese tipo de batería pues, va a estar en backup, vamos a decir.
Correcto.
Ok, en aplicaciones HOMEGRID, ¿qué recomendación da él en cuestión de descarga que él entienda que sea saludable para descargar esa batería que, pues, que no afecte como tal la vida útil? Porque siempre la descarga afecta sea cualquier tipo de batería, tanto ácido plomo y ácido.
Pero lo interesante de este sistema, que es lo que estaba mencionando antes, es que el ciclo es a cero. O sea, la gran mayoría de los productos, por ejemplo,
de las otras baterías de litio,
20% mínimo, 30% mínimo, es más, con lead acid, estamos hablando de un 50% mínimo, o sea que esto te lleva a cero, que es lo que él considera un ciclo completo. Llevarla a cero, si la llevas a 20 es un ciclo, pero tú la puedes llevar a cero sin herir el sistema.
Y no se apagan como las otras baterías que cuando llegan
So one of the things that she's saying, which is true because I've seen it, is that with other systems, when you go to that threshold, what you're calling 0%, shut off, and you have to pretty much, you know, restart, get somebody from the factory. If we bring this to zero, and then power comes back or the sun comes out and we have energy, does it restart without an issue? Okay.
Yeah.
O sea que hasta cero, llévalo y sécalo como una medalla.
y ella arranca el otro día normal.
Al otro día cuando sale el sol o cuando vuelve el luma.
So that was the goal, like,
Vuelve a
because a lot of people call it like a dark start.
dark start. Yeah.
Like what solar.
Esa batería va a ser un éxito, porque también otra cosa, problema aquí en Puerto Rico es el peso de las baterías de litio. Al ser modular, eso va a ser un éxito total, porque
Sí. Sí, porque cuando compra, o sea,
Eso no hay manera de moverlo.
So, I mean, it handles the cycles from 100 to 0 fine. Is there any recommendation from the manufacturer, from you guys, just to, you know?
Yeah, if you want to make this thing last 30 years, we'd probably recommend doing an 80% discharge. Yeah. But like I said, we warranty 100% use of the battery. If
30 years, we're going to be hydrogen. 30 years? I'm not even lying. I'll be dead.
Yeah, I mean, if you because you like we said, in Puerto Rico, we wouldn't recommend it, but in some more moderate climates, like where there's not severe weather, this can be installed outside. But it's one of those things where we tell our customers, this is a big investment for you. If you want to take care of this, like your car or like your home, put this inside. You know, if you can, you know, limit it to an 80% depth of discharge, and make this thing last 20 to 30 years on your house, right?
There's no fumes, so it's not lead acid or anything like that. It's not, o sea, tú no tienes peligro de nada. Puedes poner un closet como un garaje, puedes ponerlo donde quieras y no vas a tener problema con eso.
Yeah. Are there any other questions before I kind of continue?
Nice question.
Yeah, those are great.
Do you have many example customers that are using this without PV, just as a generator?
We do actually have a few. Yeah, especially on the commercial side, and we'll go into some of those projects, but we have some commercial clients that are using it just to reduce peak demand of their businesses. So they're not necessarily selling it or using it with solar. It's simply to offset electricity use during certain times of the day. And then we do actually have some large housing installers in Texas that are looking at using us in place of a generator, because there are a lot of locations in the US where when the power goes out, it's not going out for days or weeks. It's just for a couple hours, here and there. And so they'll just do a solar and just do our battery with no solar, and it's grid charged. And that's just for those brownouts to make sure that homes don't lose power.
But to that question, it's interesting that you mentioned that. We've had a lot of calls for apartment buildings. That they get, right now the situation with Luma is not easy. So they cut off and then they're like, and then they call, nobody answers, you don't even know when the power's gonna come back. So they're like, hey, at least I wanna have a day where my refrigerator, I can operate my house perfectly well. We actually have that small battery, the little one Walmart, the pack. We have it quoted in several apartment buildings because it gives you, I think it's 5 kilowatts, right? But it's small, but at least it gives you something. So you can have the refrigerator running. But there's a lot of people in apartment buildings that want to have something. They don't have solar panels. They just charge it with Luma. Now have power for a day, maybe 2.
Jonas, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I charge, let's say I don't have Luma, I don't have the grid, and the battery shut off to 0 at midnight. Can I set the generator to start and charge the battery?
Yeah, so this is, honestly, we have worked with a lot of off-grid customers as well, and installers that do off-grid. And if you're looking for the ideal setup, it's a solar with our battery and a small generator.
And you can charge with a generator?
Oh, yeah.
Well, through the solar.
You can actually program it so when it gets to a certain level of the battery, generator turns on, powers your home, or commercial property, charges it at the same time. Then when it reaches the level, shuts off the generator.
Lo que pasa que pues lo confunde con Tesla.
Sí,
Porque Tesla es un all-in-one.
No puede integrar con mi generador.
Exacto, se confunde con eso, pero no.
So that's what we see a lot of, is people pairing a solar with our battery into it and a small generator. That way you can set it, if the battery reaches 20%, we can charge the battery back with the generator, which is much more efficient as well. So if you have a 10 kilowatt generator always running, you're wasting a lot of power production there.
Yeah.
But if you use all of that to charge the battery and we can capture all of those 10 kilowatts,
What do you call a small generator? Because you said you can have the battery and a small generator for off-grid applications. So let's say you wanna charge the battery, it's in 0. Do you need a 10 kilo generator? Can I have a 5 or 6?
So it totally depends on the home. It totally depends on what the home would typically be using. So if it's a typical home, like I have maybe 1,000 square foot house back in Utah. If I were to do this, which I am, I'd probably use a 5 kilowatt generator.
But can it be used? That would be my question. Can it be used? Because I've seen batteries that you need to have a big generator to charge the battery. You cannot use a 5 or 6.
So yeah, I just want to be really clear that the charging from the generator is coming through the solar converter. Just so that to kind of clarify that. So the solar gets limited to what the solar can handle. So it depends on which model you use from them. But they can auto start the generator to charge the battery. We capture that full 5 kilowatts or 10 kilowatts. But it's going to come down to which model solar you're using as to how big you can.
So it could be like a 30 amp breaker to feed.
Yeah, I think their generator breaker is like 63 amps.
Yeah, that's the generator for the breaker. But I need the solar, let's say 8 or 12, and probably the 15 eventually when it comes out. Yeah, I don't know, maybe. I heard that, I don't know.
Yeah.
So my question would be, let's say I have this, with these 2 modules, I go to 0, I have the solar, 8 kilos and I can I use that small, for me, a 5 kilo generator is small, I don't know, that's what I mean. I would like to know, you need from 10.
You have to understand that it has a lot to do with the consumption of the property.
Yeah, I got that,
Yeah.
I'm
So,
clear on
because
that.
if you're consuming 30 kilowatts, or if you're consuming 15 kilowatts, and you put a 5 kilowatts, and I don't know where the batteries are drained, I mean, the gen is gonna turn on, but it's not gonna have enough capacity to power the property and charge the battery. So, you know, there has to be a balance. But what he's alluding to is, if I have a 30 kilowatt generator, and my home consumes 10 kilowatts, typically, and you have that extra 20 kilowatts, that you're just wasting that energy because it's not going anywhere. By the way, in a big spectrum, that's really what happens in Duma today.
Yep.
We have all this generation and we have nowhere to, that's why these mass storage systems are being implemented grid level with panels, so we can actually start putting that energy somewhere instead of throwing it in the air. So that's the same thing that happens in your home. You have extra generations, like right here. Look at Glenn, the example here. We have a 175 kilowatt generator. We use, I think it was a 3.5%, 4%. So we usually, when we first went back there and looked at the generator, like, oh, oops, you know, we don't use anything. So we put a battery system for the data center, and that charges in no time.
Well, and what you're mentioning too is that it just improves the efficiency of your generator. So if, you know, a disaster happens or you guys happen to be off grid for a long period of time, it also means that, you know, your homeowners are having to purchase less fuel to run their generators because we're only running it for a few hours to power the home and charge the battery. So this ideal setup is certainly solar with a battery and a generator. And if somebody wants to be off grid, the nice thing is that the generator allows us to decrease the size of the battery a little bit because we know the generator can kick on worst case if we don't have solar for days.
In essence, what you guys are just talking about, the microgrid.
Yeah.
In all essence, that's what it is. And remember, you have to start thinking, you know, of the case scenario, right? So you have solar, you don't know, the capacity of your consumption is fluctuating too. So you bring 1 or 2 electric vehicles, and now you're charging a lot. So your solar capacity is not enough. So the batteries you start draining. So I don't know where you're at 20%, but now you have that microgrid generator turn on, build me some capacity, charge the cars at the same time, and now you're utilizing your capacity of your microgrid in your property to be the most efficient possible.
What's the maximum current capacity you can feed to the discharge battery?
So are you talking like amps for just the battery?
Yeah, I mean, if it's fully discharged and you have a massive generator and you want to, or the grid.
Yeah, so it kind of depends because we're a 48 volt battery, so those amps are going to change depending on what it is. But from the inverter to the battery, we can take up to 312 amps, like to charge the battery system, depending on the size, right? Because if you have this size, it's going to limit it to a little bit lower, like 200 amps. But the largest we can do at the 4 stack is 312.5 amps.
At 48.
But that's at 48 volts, so you know it depends on where you're looking in the system for that current. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you were 100% discharged and you're going to charge it at full capacity, timeline, how much time?
Oh, charge it at full capacity?
Yeah, so we're going to go from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And we have full capacity coming either from the utility, solar, or from an inverter, or for Jimmy.
Yeah.
How fast can he charge to 100%?
So it'll depend on the capacity, but like this battery is an example. We
Full
can
stack.
like a full 8 stack.
Yeah.
It would take 2.5 hours
wow.
if you could charge it. But the thing is what we've done is we don't want our battery to be the bottleneck, but that also means that we've made the solar the bottleneck, right? So if the solar can only charge us at 185 amps, then you know we can't utilize the full battery, right? But that's what we always want to be. You know, you could pair us with 2 inverters, 2 12Ks, and we can handle those loads, you know. But if you were to be able to charge it at the full capacity with a full 8 stack, which is almost 40 kilowatt hours, we could do that in 2.5 hours. Charging at 15 kilowatts. Yeah. So, any other questions before we kind of move on?
Slide 1. Sorry for the delay.
Yes, sir. makes you guys stoked? I mean, this is the battery for Puerto Rico.
Yeah, we have been talking about this amazing product, but what about the little babies? I mean, the 5 kilos.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, no, these are great. So what we see a lot of these used in is either smaller homes or like apartment complexes and multifamily buildings where they want to put a small battery in each unit. We've also had a few people that are building out like RVs and things like that use them. So each of these is 5.12 kilowatt hours. So 5 kilowatt hours. This is, I apologize, an old spec sheet. We can actually do up to 15 of these in parallel. So we could do 15 of them on a wall. However, I tell people that unless you need it to be on the wall, once you use more than 2, you should use the stack series because it's much easier to upgrade. So if you're doing 1 or 2 of these, it makes sense, right? The nice thing and the benefit of this battery compared to some of the others, which I'd say our closest competitor on this battery is the Fortress E-Flex, like they're a smaller one. About the same size capacity. However, we can do almost double the output. So we can output 5 kilowatts continuous from this little battery. And I want to say there's like a 3. So that's kind of like, that's our goal in this market is to continue having that high output and high capacity. But yeah, most of these are being installed in either small homes for like emergency backup, just to keep their lights and their fridge on, or they're being used in like apartments and multi-families. We can step on. So one thing I also want to just tell everyone real quick, we've tried to build our website so that our information is very easy, both for us to use to train people and show people our products, but also for you to show people our products. So if you guys end up loving the battery system, which I know you will, and you want to show homeowners or you want to show your team of installers or your salespeople how to showcase our products, the answer is just the website every single time. So you can come here, you can find the different products. On the stack series, you have the spec sheet. We have a brief rundown on the battery, and then we have a quick promotional video, the install guide, and then we have some pictures of different installs around the country. So we try to keep it super simple for each product. So we also have down below kind of why you'd want a battery and why you'd want HOMEGRID. The next product that I'll kind of run into just briefly, this is coming out, looks like either April or May, is an integrated series, okay? And what we've done is we don't have exclusivity with any brands, and neither does Solar. Solar works with a lot of different batteries, and we work with a lot of inverter companies, but they're very easy to install, and they're very compatible with us, right? We have close communications. And so we're actually coming out with a cabinet that can be placed on top of the stack series that houses a Solar 12K or their upcoming 15K. So this was the initial prototype. We have a few more that we've worked through with their engineering team. So the final version, like this picture is just the cabinet. The final version will go on top of this, right? But we can install a Solar 12K or 15K into it. And it'll save you guys a little bit of install time, right? You're not having to run conduit from the inverter to the battery. It makes it a little bit easier, just a bus bar system that runs in there. And aesthetically, it looks, I mean, we think it looks pretty good.
But we still need to run the PV strings over, so you're still gonna have conduit running to the top of that.
So yes, it comes in through the back, but it kind of keeps everything localized, right? Where we know like one of the big complaints with Solar is that their cutouts are kind of far off the wall, and it's tough to bend pipe and get it up in there too. And so you're going to save time because now the only thing you have to wire is you don't have to use like the 4-aught cable and bend it and everything. You're just running PV, grid, and load right into the back at a single port, and you can connect it to the bus system that's there.
Because the battery part is hot level.
Yeah, so the battery part, you can see basically it would just come with a bus bar on the side here, and then you'd run the 4-aught cable up to the Solar. And we would let you, obviously, like the installer would install the Solar in there, just so that we let you pick what you want in the cabinet. This is also another option that we've got coming out soon. The last one that I'll run through for HOMEGRID is our Power Block series. This is one that we've also recently upgraded. It's a similar model. So we have a large commercial cabinet that is weatherproof. It's temperature controlled with air conditioning and heating, and it comes pre-installed with batteries and solars on it, right? What we can do is we can fit up to 4 full stacks of these batteries in this cabinet, and we can put up to 3 solars on the outside of it, right? So we can do 1 solar, we can do 2, we can do 3 on the outside of a single cabinet, and we can do anywhere from 1 stack inside there all the way up to 4, which gives us a capacity range inside one cabinet of 9.6 to 153 kilowatt hours inside a single cabinet.
2 questions. Is that available right now? And
Only with the 12K. When the 15K comes out, it'll
yeah, but what about, is it available for 3-phase installation?
be for 208 volt 3-phase. Yes.
208?
Yeah.
Okay.
For higher voltage 3-phase, so 480 volt 3-phase, that's where we would step into the next products I'll go into, which are our grid box. So they're containerized solutions, like in shipping containers.
So I'm sorry, one unit. You can put up three solars, you mentioned, which may be 36 kilowatts. And how much storage?
We can go up to 4 full stacks inside. So that's up to 153 kilowatt hours.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've actually, these pictures, we just updated it so that we can fit 4 in there. So the cabinet's a little bit larger than this. The solars get mounted on the outside. So if you guys only want 2 full stacks, we can mount the solars on the inside, but it's a very flexible system. So this is an option where you guys can go to Glenn International, right? And say, we want a cabinet with 2 full stacks and 2 solar 12Ks inside, and we can do that for you. And it comes pre-installed. So it is a more expensive solution because what we do is we prefabricate everything. We build the casing with air conditioning and heating, and we actually pre-wire all the batteries for you with a DC bus. We install the solars, we configure them with the batteries. So that way the only thing you have to do is drop this on site onto a concrete pad and install the solar and grid and load into the solars with an AC combiner.
Is that waterproof or yes?
Yep.
So you can put it outside?
Yep.
John, regarding the integrated series that you showed a picture, I noticed the cabinet does not show the screen of the BMS on the battery. Is that because of the rating of the?
So
you can see it there, but on the picture, on the previous one.
So these were the first prototypes. The new ones that we're working through with their engineers look like this. So it actually goes on top of it. So you'll still see the BMS and everything. It basically will be compatible with the stack systems. It's just a cabinet that will sit on top of this BMS here. That's my apologies. This one is just our first prototype that we worked through. So this is not what it'll look like exactly. So the cabinet's the same, but it goes on top of this.
But it would be outdoors.
No, so this one will not be outdoors. Yeah, just because we're having to we have to vent the solar, and rain could blow in there and get on the bus bar. It's inside.
Only one inverter inside that the integrated solution done.
Yes, just solar converters in this for right now.
One.
Yep, so 12K or 15K.
The battery is sensitive to moisture. In any case, like high levels of humidity. Let's say if I installed one of these in the mountainside where there's lots of moisture anytime.
No, I mean, it's like I said, here in Puerto Rico, just because hurricanes and big storms, we would recommend building an enclosure around it just to keep super strong wind and rain from blowing up into it. But in terms of general humidity, there's no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
What the base or the legs? What material is that?
It's mild steel. It's painted with automotive grade paint.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because you put it on a driveway or any place, people cleaning with a hose or something, that can get corrosion, right?
Yeah, I could. If you scrape the paint off of it or something, then you could. So there's some people that'll do little zinc tubes that'll tie to it. but we haven't had any problems with rust or anything like that yet. So if you did scrape the paint off, you could start to see some rust. But in terms of this battery, I mean, we could hose it off like right now, as long as we put the top on. You can spray it down if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's IP55. It's still waterproof and everything.
The stackable
Yeah.
module connectors have like dielectric grease, or is just dry connections?
I'm sorry. I don't know.
Like for those batteries.
Like the male and female
Yeah, I
connection.
was thinking, the previous question about the humidity and so on.
Mhm.
Sometimes they suggest to put some dielectric grease on the connectors. So I was wondering,
Oh.
on those stacks, is that recommended or just dry?
No, that's totally fine. It's a dry contact there. Because it has, I mean, general humidity is not going to cause any problems with the materials. It's just going to be like rain blowing in. You can hose this off, but I wouldn't go pressure washing it, like spray it.
Okay.
But just the battery installed as is. I mean, we have installs outside that we've been checking on. They've been completely fine. So as an example, this right here. So this is in an area where they don't really get any snow. It's installed outside and it's not in direct sunlight. So this is kind of one of the use cases where it can be installed outside, but it's still very humid there. They've got this, when I was out there showing the installers how to install the battery, just getting eaten up by mosquitoes and everything. So it's super humid, super wet, and it's been totally fine. But it just can't be installed in direct sunlight. And like I said, if there's severe storms or snow, building up, then you don't want to put it outside. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions about the power block? This is kind of something that's a little bit more custom. So this is something that you'd have to come to, Glenn to and say, hey, this is exactly how we want to have this built. Because the output of the system, the capacity of the system is going to depend highly on how many solarcs you use, which solarcs, and how many batteries you choose to put in there. But it has been a great solution for a lot of commercial properties where they don't need 480 volt 3-phase, but they need a bunch of capacity and they don't have room for it inside their building and they want to be able to put it outside. So these have actually been very, very popular because it's the same concept as a stacked battery, right? So if they start off with four stacks in there and they want to expand later, they can just buy modules and expand it later, just like this battery. Yep. So the last thing I'll do is pull up the lithium battery page. This is where you can find some more of our grid box products. So everything I just showed you was HOMEGRID. So this is everything typically residential on up to small or medium commercial projects that we can do with the power block. What we'll do is I'll just run through on our website because I don't think that one's approved. So down at the bottom here, we have GridBox 50. So this is basically an 8-foot shipping container. The names with all of our GridBox products indicate how much power they can output. So on the smaller GridBox sizes, we have integrated hybrid inverters in them. Okay, there's some Nexel inverters with our batteries and our battery management system. So this is an 8-foot container. We can go anywhere from 64 to 192 kilowatt hours in a single unit. And we have a hybrid inverter integrated into this. All of our GridBox products output 480 volt 3-phase. So this one is 50, the GB50, and we can output 50 kilowatts continuous from this inverter or charge it at 50.
So big.
As you guys also saw, we have a GridBox 100, which is a slightly larger container. So this is the same concept. We can output 100 kilowatts continuous or charge at 100 kilowatts continuous. And we can go anywhere from 128 to 384 kilowatt hours inside this unit. All of these are going to have fire suppression built into them, UL 9540A, all the safety certifications and everything so that we can install them. If you guys are working with different voltages, we can also work on trying to integrate isolation transformers to change the voltages around. So we have some projects in Canada that we're working with on some larger solutions because the last product really that we offer is a 20-foot container. that can go up to 1.1 megawatt hours inside it with a 500 kilowatt inverter. We have products in Canada that are working with 600 volt three-phase. We have projects elsewhere that are operating on different voltages, so we can accommodate those. But this is something that Glenn is acquainted with. They can help you with bidding on these projects. We're happy to help. This side's a little bit more custom, so if you have a project need, that's where we need some more information on the project, and then we can help you size the system. We can assist in any ways you need. Good. So awesome. Does anybody have any questions about the product lineup?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have one. With other batteries, you have to sometimes make updates in the firmware of the battery. In your battery, does we have to make a update or something, or no?
So no, not right now. So right now, all of our shipments that leave our factory in Nevada. So right now, our batteries are manufactured overseas. This is another good point. I'll bring it back to this. So right now, our batteries are manufactured overseas. We're bringing assembly of the products back to Nevada this year to our warehouses. And in the next 2 to 3 years, we're bringing full manufacturing of all the cells and everything back to the US as well. So right now, when we receive shipments to our warehouse in Nevada, we literally open every single box, we check the firmware, make sure it's updated, and do all that work before we repackage it, ship it out to you guys. So right now, no, there would not be a need for you to perform a software update. We check it every time. Like I said, in the future, we'll start shipping it with the Wi-Fi modules, so that when you install it, you can right there, you can commission it.
So in the future.
So in the future,
if you need to make an update.
you guys still won't have to do it, right? Because it'll be connected to the internet. We can update it over the internet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good to know.
So the first step for us is to start shipping the batteries this summer with these Wi-Fi modules, so they can be installed. And then by the end of the year, they'll actually be integrated into the BMS. So there's not like an external unit.
This is per battery or per BMS?
Per BMS. Yeah, so we can actually upgrade with this. We can upgrade the firmware on the modules and the main BMS through this unit plugged into the side there. So this is one of the things where this is the biggest point, and I'll share my contact info with everyone at the end. And Nelson and Ignacio will have it too. If you guys see things, you're like, this would make the battery better. We want to do that. Like if we have people come to us and say, hey, you should be able to update this battery over the air, right? And check for software updates, do problem diagnosis. So we're changing that, right? The first big thing, probably the thing that we changed the fastest on was making communication with the inverters easier, right? So now, we'll run through the install process this here in a minute. Maybe let everyone take a break before we go through that. But now, all you do is flip a switch and turn the BMS on, and it's set to that inverter protocol, right? So the feedback that we get from you guys to make this product better is why we're pushing so fast and so hard. We want to keep improving and keep fixing that. So please give us feedback as you install these systems. We want to make it better.
Just to be clear, each module has its own BMS and you have a master BMS?
Yes. Yep. So each module has its own BMS built into it that controls everything at the cellular level. And then the main controller will control that stack, that system, and stacks in parallel. So there's an address switch, and we'll go through that in the install. There's an address switch here, but we can do up to 15 stacks in parallel, and you would designate one as a master and then the rest is this. And it's just a switch on the side of the BMS.
When you're gonna put two models in parallel, do you have to use bus bar?
Like two stacks?
Uh-huh.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're doing multiple stacks in parallel, you do need an external bus bar,
Okay.
like a DC bus system to connect them to. Yep. But for like a single stack, there's nothing to do. There's no wiring. The bus bar is all integrated into the system, just like Legos, stacked up. Awesome. The biggest thing too is lead time. You guys start ordering through Glenn, we can get these batteries out quickly. So we've had a lot of investment come in, like I mentioned with Lithion last year and some other partners. We have massive amounts of inventory. So that should, really never be too much of a problem. I know a lot of people are waiting months and months on batteries, right? It's something where when we get an order from Glenn, we can get it out within 3 days. So we are exponentially increasing our inventory.
Do they have, Nelson, do you have available right now? Or?
We have of the compact series. We just sold. Actually, that one was sold. That was the last one.
They're going like hotcakes. We've got
Yeah,
another shipment
yeah.
on the way.
But we are today. We're sending an order, so we should be able to get them pretty soon.
Yep. But no longer are you having to wait, months for products or anything like that at any quantity. I mean, you guys could order 5, you could order 1,000. It's something we can get out very quickly. Awesome.
For that bigger stuff you were talking about before, does the C rate have a change? Do you do anything regarding the C rate for the box?
So it depends on the capacity you choose, because like the inverter, I mean, the C rating of our cells is never the problem. I mean, the individual cells, we could technically go up to like 7C, 9C, right? But if we have, a 1.1 megawatt hour container that can output 500 kilowatts, then we're looking at basically a half C of output. So it'll depend on the capacity and the size inverter. But yeah, we can go pretty high. And honestly, even the fire suppression systems that we put in those larger systems, that's just regulatory based. It's not something, they've had to literally change testing, like safety certifications for lithium iron phosphate, because in some cases they can't catch it on fire. Like they can't beat it up enough to do that. So, yeah.
Hey, John, for that integrated series again, is the cabinet standard size? Like if I'm gonna, let's say, I want 4 modules or 3 modules or 5 or 6 or whatever, is that a standard size that you just fit those modules or?
For the integrated series right here?
Yeah.
Or for the power block?
No, for the integrated series.
For the integrated series? So for the integrated series, we don't recommend going any higher than 5 modules, just because it gets really high.
Mhm.
So five modules is 24 kilowatt hours, which I feel like for the standard home that we're working with right now, even in the US, 24 kilowatt hours is perfect with like a 15K. But that's something where it's a standardized size, so it just goes on top of the BMS, and then you can do either. We're working on trying to do the 8K, the solar 8K as well. So
but what is the purpose of the cabinet? I mean, you already have the solar and it's just for looks on the wiring on the back, or?
Yeah, so it's mostly for aesthetics, and it makes the install process just a little bit easier. Where, like I was saying, that's one of the biggest complaints with SolarX is having to run the conduit off the wall, to the battery, to the solar. And so it does make that process a little bit easier. But I would say it's mostly for looks, and it's also just to kind of show off a partnership with them. We have a relationship. Yeah.
And to be clear, here at Glen, we're bringing both equipment separately. I mean, the battery and from HOMEGRID and the solar inverters from solar. So we're not currently purchasing this integrated solution just yet.
Yeah. So the
Nelson, so if I wanted Glenn to provide me a quote for the integrated
We could.
series. Okay,
Yeah, we could.
okay.
we will have numbers on that by the end of this month. So we're looking at like an actual release of sometime in April. Yeah. So probably wouldn't be down here to Puerto Rico until the end of April or the beginning of May. So we're finalizing everything with Solar Engineers. The last thing we want to do is release a product that's not good. So we're just making sure everything's really polished before we release it.
And can it be for the 8, the 12, or even the 15?
So the 12 and the 15K, yes. I'm not sure on the 8 right now, but the 12, it will work for the 12 and the 15.
Yeah, the 15 is not out yet.
Yeah, the 15 keeps getting bumped back a little
It'll
bit.
be soon.
So many people are just like waiting for it.
Yeah.
You're waiting for it.
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody have any final questions on HOMEGRID, GridBox, some of the benefits?
Can I take that home?
What we'll do is,
Raffle.
if it's okay, we can probably cut the video and then we'll take a break and then we can go through the install process
That would be good.
afterwards. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Okay. Well, so as a summary, just on the overall product info, our goal with this product was full home backup, right? So our output, our capacity, everything that we do, our goal is to be 2 to 3 times as good as anybody else on the market. There's a lot of people that have been telling customers and homeowners that batteries and solar can do something and can back up the entire home. And we've just, sadly, a lot of people have been disappointed. And our goal is to be exactly what people think a battery should be, right? If people, what can we back up? Can we power the whole home? Yes, we can. Can we add to it later? Yes, we can. Is it super fast and easy to install? Yes. So I appreciate you guys coming out. Thank you.
Yeah,
We'll take a break and then we'll go through the install process here in just a minute.
Perfecto. Para los que están conectados en Facebook Live y YouTube, pues aquí nos despedimos. Pero vamos a poner información en los comentarios por si desean contactarnos. Estamos más que agradecidos porque hayan participado. Los vemos en el próximo. Muchas gracias.